There goes Zach's here.
Is there a reason?
50 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Is there a reason why, Ben?
Well, the,
And
This sign is-
take aside all who it is or whatever it could be.
well, that's real easy. It's mathematics, okay? So DBI originally was at 18 inches and is modified and found a way to go 24 inches. And this sign is for 3 times, nearly 4 times that at 96 inches. So we've been through this historic ordinance ad nauseum, as the mayor would say, and we've passed it, and it's codified, and it's simple. It's 3 times, this sign is 3 times larger than what we all agreed on and passed 7-0 when we voted on the ordinance. So I don't even know why we're even having this discussion.
Because he appealed
Because
it.
he's granted an
Because
appeal.
He
And-
gets to have an appeal.
Right.
Is it fair to those that, granted, everybody will say their grandfather, but is it fair to those that currently have signs in downtown that are much larger than
I don't know many that are gonna be much larger than that.
there's quite a few.
Let me be, I want to be clear. The general business in the town, you get up to 400 square inches for a sign.
For a wall sign.
For a wall sign, okay.
Wall sign, not a projecting sign, but flush to the front.
DBI's cap is 50 square inches. Is it square inches or square feet?
We're square feet, and I assume they're square feet.
Square feet.
Square feet, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm
I
right.
was about to say, yeah.
What is Tim Bauer's size of his proposed sign? How many square feet is his? I want to
Got it right here.
make sure we know what we're voting on.
I've got the one dimension. Do you have them both?
His sign is 60 by 96.
Inches.
While he may fall within 50 square feet, there are restrictions to flat wall signs, window decals, sandwich board, of different types of signs. You don't want to have a flat wall sign that is so massive on the front of a brick and mortar and a pedestrian-oriented walkable main street. We feel that the flat wall sign is too large for the front of his building. And that's our stand, based on the restrictions of flat wall signs.
It was brought to my attention, the reason he needed larger was so that if you're standing across the street and tractor trailers are sitting in the middle of the road, stopped at the stop sign or stoplight, that you cannot see the sign due to the trucks.
He told me, that's what he told me. He's talking about the
To me,
old
it's
hotel building.
legitimate. I mean,
I don't think that, I just think we've got a historic ordinance. You either change the ordinance, you just can't, I'm amazed that we're even considering this. We've got an ordinance in place.
Isn't it strange that we're back to the same place?
We are. I'm gonna be honest with you. Here's my position. Y'all will call me weak spine, whatever you want to call me. I've talked to Mr. Bauer numerous times since he's been to Blackstone, and like a lot of people that we're blessed with, he is making a considerable investment in downtown. There are 2 things I don't like. Number one, I don't like the fact that the town adopts an ordinance like we did in September 2016, but makes DBI be the enforcer. And Mr. Green made the comment, shoved it down the throat. I mean, I think that was a fair comment. But I also don't want to find ourselves chasing business away. And if that's an overstatement, it may be. And I know Mr. Bauer, hey, he's very passionate. But he's making, and not that people who pay the most get the most say, but I just, at a time when Wall Street's booming and small towns are struggling, I just hate to do anything that's going to leave a bad taste in someone that is bringing people to town. The gun shop brings people from a wide area. The gym is defying my expectations. I didn't think a gym would be busy in Blackstone. He's got 400 members.
It's not the sign bringing them here. It's his good shop and personnel and
I agree.
advertising on the internet, all of those things.
But I feel like
not the sign.
he feels like every time the more he does, the more he finds himself getting smacked on the hand. That's what he's telling me. I'm not, like I said,
I
I'm not.
look at it as a personal standpoint. If I had a building downtown, yes, doesn't need to be a neon sign. I can understand all that. There's restrictions for all that. But I don't want so much restriction on size. I mean, if it's
attractive, especially.
yeah, if it looks okay, I don't see a big deal. Now, of course, 400 square feet is pretty large. I mean,
Doesn't it
Well, let me
doesn't
tell you
it make
this.
sense that you would, if you had a difference in ordinance and what people were doing, that you would check and see what the difference is before you did the sign and before you did it all, to where
Sure.
the answer could be no and you're not out $1,000.
Certainly.
So it's like you buying a piece of property with bad drainage on it.
Yeah, you stuck with it.
It was there when you bought it.
True.
And this ordinance was there when he took over the shop.
But the other properties that had bad drainage, but they were fixed. That's, what Mr. Nash makes a good point about the other existing businesses that are here that have signs that are larger than the guidelines.
What year did he purchase the building? I don't even.
He came to me probably in 12 or 13.
So
It's been some time.
that point's invalid because he owned the buildings prior to the sign ordinance being in place.
September 2016 is when y'all adopted the new.
When did he ask for a permit to put the sign up?
Pardon?
When did he apply for permit to put the sign up?
It's only been within the past few months.
So
In 2018, I
But he-
regardless of when you
but
purchase the
but
property, it's
ordinance
when
was there for
you
him
do a
to
building
read
permit or whatever. I just
prior to
wanna,
putting the sign up.
I just wanna share something with you that I've been fortunate to vacation on weekends and stuff in some of the small progressive little towns. We were recently in Beaufort, South Carolina, visited Paris Island and, both communities there, I think it's Port Royal, the town of Port Royal and the city of Beaufort have a restriction on the signs, McDonald's signs. And I walk down through the community, it's gorgeous. I almost get my hand on top of it, they're so low. And you'll see that in Chesterfield, you see it all over everywhere. Well, that's the conditions, and that's what it is. You come in and, you know, if you want a sign like you see at a truck stop, tough. These things are in place for a reason. And now we've shuffled this over to DBI, as you say, jammed it down their throat. They've come back, they have a recommendation, and now we're trying to find ways to get out of what's been recommended to us because we have a personal vested interest in it. I'm looking at this strictly, we passed a law, if it was right or wrong, we passed it. If you don't agree with it, let's take steps to appeal it. But we've got an organization that they have a committee that is well versed in what the ordinance is. They help write the ordinance. It's come down to personal. If someone can come to the podium and raise Cain to get what they want.
He hasn't been here. He has not been to the
I don't
podium.
subscribe to that. The law is the law. We need to either modify the law or we need to stick to the law. It's that simple, in my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, I
Mr.
think Mr. Ben there is getting putting a little personal feeling in this thing.
I'm
No,
sorry.
I just get, John Hill, I very much respected Mr. Hill, and he felt the same way I do. We pass all these laws, and we don't enforce them. That's my frustration. That's just my frustration. It's not personal to me at all.
Hold on.
It's not personal to me
Mr.
at
Mitchell,
all.
yes, Mr. Mitchell, and then we'll entertain the motion.
If I'm driving through town, I cannot tell what businesses are where. I mean, because they're right in the wall, most of them in the wall, and you can't see anything. So so I'm saying, some of these signs were put in after the thing was voted, like the one had the automobile parks in there. That sign is that big on top of the building. But
Blackstone,
that's not in the district.
He's on he's right outside the
So this thing is all, I think it's all misunderstanding. You need to put something out there what's supposed to be done, because I didn't know it either. But I'm
Give me the
saying-
information when they
but
get a
What I'm
permit.
saying is, he's gonna put a lot of stuff in this community. We need it.
I agree,
I'm saying-
100%. It's
but
nothing,
you're
this
saying-
doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just a
What
fact
I'm
of the
saying is, you
matter.
were talking about bringing it to the voting on it. And then 1 minute you said, no, let's forget about it. But a while ago, now you said, let's vote on it again. So what are you gonna do?
Well, the motion been made and seconded to deny Mr. Bauer's permit, and I just want to make sure Mr. Bauer, as I would for anybody, I would want to make sure that the discussion was held. I think there's been a good discussion. Any other comments from members of
But I think
council?
there should be a standard policy on have the signs for the, because it's like little things jumping around. Everywhere, look at different signs.
That's what the ordinance is, Mr. Mitchell.
Well, you know, when they start making the changes,
Ms. Thompson has the floor.
and when I put my sign up, all the big signs, they said they were grandfather. But I was denied putting up a big sign.
For Paradise.
Yeah. I had to put up a small one. I said, well, it doesn't even look right to have some little ones and some big ones. They all really should look alike.
What if someone owns a whole block, and this may be in the ordinance that I'm not clear on, but what if someone owns a whole block and they just want one sign? Is it per building facade in each storefront?
It's per sign. It's per sign. It's sign, period.
My sign is so small you can't see it, but all these other huge signs, that was the law at that time. This is the size sign you have to put up. So I put up what they told me to, because that was the rule.
And just a history lesson, I don't mean to lecture, but the whole reason this came about was when we got the historic district in 1990, Bill and Betty Armbruster, fine people, they were trying to avoid the inconsistencies between some shops had perpendicular signs hanging out over the sidewalk, and some did not. And both for pedestrians and for motorists, it was agreed that the flat sign was more visible, especially for pedestrians. But I will say for Tim's hotel that he wants to do, and the sign's going to be up higher, I think he would be, I don't think that's an unreasonable request. The further you are from eyesight, the bigger the sign needs to be. I mean, it would do no good to go, well, honey, wait a minute, stop and get the binoculars. Wait a minute. Yeah, that's a hotel. I know that's dramatic, but there was a reason behind it. But what the downtown advocates wanted the nights was get rid of these perpendicular hanging signs over the sidewalk. And if you notice in Blackstone today, there are none of those downtown that I recall. But anyway, I've lobbied, Mr. Nash has lobbied. Any further discussion by the council? There's a motion and a second to deny Mr. Bauer's appeal. I will ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Hamner.
Nay.
The motion carries 6-1 to deny Mr. Bauer's appeal, and I will ask town staff to notify Mr. Bauer tomorrow, or as soon as possible. Unfinished business number 2 on the beautification committee. I have got 5 people confirmed. At the next meeting, I will bring 3 more. I need a little more diversity, trying to get, especially among gender. But I will have 8 names for you. I've got 5 good ones right now. I want to get 3. And
They were willing?
Eager. People message me on Facebook.
Good for you, man.
Moving right along to the town shop floor drainage. Mr. Van Orbeck. I thought we sold the town shop.
We did, but in 2013, the town disconnected the sewer line from the floor drain from the town sewer in the old Quonset hut portion of the building, the metal, I guess it was the old water tank at one time for the town. I think it was an old coal storage facility. There was a floor drain that was tied to this town sewer and was taking a significant amount of water into the sewer. I made the decision in 2013 to disconnect it so that there was no groundwater getting in there. DEQ had received a report about the town sumping the water out of the basement. And that's what we've been doing, is we have a sump pump down the basement, and we've been pumping it into the curb line, and that goes into the waters of the Commonwealth. DEQ has said that is not acceptable. And DEQ's letter did say that it needs to go back into the town sewer. We received 3 bids. The low one is just under 10,000, but I bring it for your consideration. I do have in writing DEQ's enforcement order telling us that we need to reconnect because there is free petroleum in that liquid, and sumping it into the curb line is no longer acceptable. I'm asking authorization to award contract to Leeds Construction $9,975.
Where is this? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Move to approve of the low bid to Lee's Excavating for $9,975.
Second.
Discussion.
What fund? Water and sewer?
Again, logically, it would come out of the water and sewer fund. Will it come out of the specific? We may have to do an appropriation at the end of the year if we run short.
We do with the sale proceeds.
We still said that we can use sale proceeds.
I'd recommend sales
I
proceeds.
sale proceeds, I mean.
Problem is,
Obviously,
we got
were gonna
multiple
use that
options.
to help build shops and, or
Do you want to amend that motion? Amend that motion to include,
Town
come from
proceeds is
sale
fine.
proceeds.
Not a problem.
all right, I'd entertain a motion, I'd entertain a roll call vote. Any questions? Mr. Hammer? Motion carries 7-0. Updated zoning map, number 4, unfinished business.
This is the first revised zoning map since 1992, and it reflects all the zoning and conditional use changes, not so much text changes, but actual site changes where the zoning designation has changed. Conditional rezonings and rezonings are reflected on this map. There are probably 25 of them that Jennifer Daniel handled this. This is the new zoning map, and since it is the official zoning map of the town of Blackstone, I would like for council to authorize adoption.
What choice do we have? Because we've already approved all these changes.
You have approved the changes,
So-
but we call this the official zoning map of the town.
Will this be updated online?
Jennifer's now gonna handle it, and she's got a GIS of the map, and now she can make changes as deemed fit. The map that is online now is a 92 map and does not reflect any of the changes, probably 2-3 dozen changes that have been made.
I move to approve of the new zoning map dated 4/16/2018.
Mr. Tucker has seconded Mr. Nash's motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next is sewer backup in Pickett Court. It looks like the town's going to foot the whole bill.
And it looks like we're gonna foot the whole bill. I'm letting you guys know the motion was for the town to pay it if the insurance proceeds didn't come through, and the insurance proceeds did not come through on the request. So I'm letting you know that we're good with the fast holds. I probably need to talk to them about some signs anyhow.
Yes, you
And,
do.
we'll go ahead and pay that. That was the motion that was made last month. I'll let you guys know this is more of an update than a request for.
That's just an update.
You gonna, what fund is this gonna come out? Water and sewer?
I'd recommend that.
You have ample? Where do we stand in council discretionary funds? You know?
I can tell you in a minute.
It
if
hasn't
you
been
wanna wait.
hit too hard this year. Some years it's been hit really.
Your motion last month did include water, that's.
Right, right.
So it says the obligation of the insurer is to pay only those claims for which our member is legally responsible. We
Our
severed
contractor did. And that's what they're stating, that the contractor's liability should cover it. But it's been
10 years now.
It's been 5 years since it was done. So, it was done correctly, it just settled and caused their sewage to back up. We will make payment to the festivals and talk to them about some sign, maybe we can do a trade.
And just FYI, what the signs we're talking about is, you know, the election in 2 weeks, most of the people in Blackstone are gonna vote in a building different than they vote for US president and the governor, because town elections have the ward system. So I've asked the manager several days in advance of the election to put the signs up saying Ward A, Ward B, Ward C, Ward D, preferably at least a week in advance, so people can know, what's that A stand for? Oh, that's Ward A, that's where, vote for Ward A. So that's what the signs he's talking about.
Ward A voting, Ward B
Yes,
voting. something.
yes. All right, next item is, the industrial park. I would ask, and just in the interest of disclosure, the town manager, myself, and Mr. Frank Carlo and one of his associates had a very positive meeting, well, a good meeting today in the town manager's office about the stalemate with Southside Electric. I am going to try to reach out to some people I know to try to, shake loose these negotiations that have kind of hit a log jam. I don't think we need to belabor anything else tonight. Unless Tessie wants to say.
Just add a point, Southside Electric's attorney has called me.
Okay.
I've called, well, we had talked prior about this, then I told him I was gonna send the letter with the request. He had sent the letter back to me with Southside's response.
Right.
I had a missed call from him on Friday. I returned his call later on Friday, he was already gone. He called me back today, and so I'm going to return his call. So if it's anything different than what's going on, I'll let you know.
Thank you, Tessie. Moving on to ongoing projects, you have an invoice for $11,500 for the removal of 214 Maben Avenue.
I think you guys approved the invoices and the bills, but
Yep.
just to let you know, the asbestos abatement and the demolition of 214 Maven Avenue cost us, and $130 in legal fees, just to point out, are included, and there's been a lien recorded. Hopefully one day we'll be paid for it, but the house is no longer a menace to that part of town. It was fairly haunted.
Outstanding. There's nothing new on meals tax, which is number 2, or street improvement projects, but there might be anything you want to share with the council?
Well, I think we're done with slurry seal today. It looked like they had finished today. I went on and met with the superintendent. Huh?
Restart tomorrow?
Do what?
Are they gonna restart tomorrow? They have anywhere else?
No, I hope we're done.
Oh, God.
We did Pickett Court, we did Nottaway Avenue, and North Main Street from Broad to the corporate limits. That was the scope of the work this year. Nottaway was in fits and starts, and they had to come back and redo portions of it. Pickett Court has been done. But I'll be honest with you, I really need to speak to the street committee about the drop inlets at Pickett Court. Because as we keep on paving, those old 1940 drop inlets are really getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's a side issue, but slurry seal should be done today. They looked done. The parking for 3 days, we really wanted to get it done today. Restaurants closed, less traffic downtown.
Smart. I'll commend you on that.
They worked on Saturday. We got a good part of North Main done on Saturday, and I think they did actually a little on Sunday, but not downtown. And I hope we got it all done today.
Wonderful.
They're waiting on it to dry. It's slurry seal. It's not intended to be a long-term fix, but it is a crack sealer for the most part, and it should last about 3-4
What they're
years.
doing on all VDOT roads outside of town.
If you could look on 460, same thing they're doing out there.
Mr. Nathaniel Miller had a question.
One of these, dilapidated, I call them dilapidated, dangerous houses
They are dangerous houses.
that you got. So what does it take? You know, because I'm thinking about these kids getting ready to get out of school,
No doubt.
and and I know down in the area that we live in, you got two dangerous houses.
The blue house on the,
Big house.
in the street, yep.
So what do we have to do to get this stuff eliminated?
Jennifer-
Because eventually, one of these kids will get caught up in these houses, and they're gonna get seriously hurt. So what does the town have to do to get rid of these houses?
Well, I'm,
Because if you notice on all the way down on Broad Street,
Yeah.
you got a porch that's ready to fall anytime.
I will sadly report to you that that house has been inspected by Al Ellington, our former building official, and he did not condemn the house. He said it is structurally sound.
He doesn't need his job.
But
I
well,
understand.
he has a successor now, Dean Lewis.
Now, what we're doing right now, in order to get these down, the process approximately is, Jennifer does a lot of it, we send notice to the property owner after a declaration of condemnation, okay? Building official sends a letter to the property owners. We basically prepare it. Building official signs it, goes to the property owners. If we don't get action or any resolution or any even a phone call, then we have a series of public hearing or public notices that go in the newspaper. Tessie's is notified. And for those homes where we don't have the ability to work with the property owner, where both parties are in agreement to take it down, we have to go to court. Okay, and that one on 214 Maben Avenue, I'll bet you we started a year and a half ago on that thing. Okay, at least a long time ago. The reason I don't do any more, and we've done 24 houses in the past several years. There were a bunch in Blackstone. We've greatly reduced the number, but there's still plenty to go. We've got, there's one at Blackstone Glass. There are several around town that need to be done. But we have to have the building official formally condemn the building before we can act.
One you're mentioning of is slated in the East End project to be demolished.
What about the one on this end? Because I'm gonna tell you, like, one night you go to sleep, the door is closed. The next day you wake up.
Is that the one that's just boarded up?
Is that the one next door to you?
It's horrible. It's not the one next to you, but if you go down on the right-hand side about halfway, there's a dreadful house down there. And we've just notified them that they had to board up the windows. I'm not satisfied with the work they've done because they took like slats from a pallet and put them in there. It's not agreeable. We've got zombie houses in Blackstone. I don't dispute any of it. But before I can move on any of them, other than board it up or secure it, I've got to have a condemnation. If everybody's familiar with the greenhouse on Church Street, a regular person would say that's condemned. Our building official at that time has not condemned that house, and that's why it stands.
You've had some meetings with Dean Lewis, though, and some communication with him, haven't
Yeah,
you?
Dean's great. He has not done a condemnation because we're still knocking out the list. You can see the town accepted an $11,000 obligation to get this one down. Plus, we've got two more on the list, one of them on Fall Street that the fire department's agreed to burn. And then there's another house on Man Street that I'm awaiting a response from the property owners to what they want to do. We've given them the price quote for the asbestos removal, and we're waiting on those. In a list, those two are next, and we can either go to Broad Street or we can go somewhere else. But I think in my professional career, we'll never exhaust
No, you've got the old,
dangerous houses.
No town will.
old funeral home on Church Street.
The roof is starting to come in on that one. So we've got plenty, and we've torn down, just on 2nd Street, for example, in the Church Street project. We tore down the Hughes house. We tore down the old Pentecostal church that's across there. And then if you go down to 3rd Street, we took 4 houses down right there on 3rd Street. So there's a lot of them coming down. It just takes a long time.
I just wish, there's a market for these properties, but people just don't want to sell them, I guess, so.
A lot of heirs.
Yeah.
A lot of errors. I think that the title is messy at best on a lot of these, yeah.
Let's move along, folks. The next item, we have a report, nothing on Rugglesworth. There is an update that's in writing in your packet about the East End application, which was submitted on time, and very good. We'll get our fingers crossed on the East End. It's in weatherization, you've got a report there. No applications are being accepted or distributed, and the county did vote, the county voted no to assist with funding? Are we talking about that house with the dirt floor?
I spoke
Wait,
with
whoa,
Ronnie
whoa. When did the county vote no?
last board meeting, apparently. Ronnie has told me that the response was no, and we sent them a letter. Ronnie's response to me was that the letter wasn't specific enough. We asked, and I spoke with Ronnie, we asked for program income money, not general tax dollars of the
Correct.
county. We wanted program income, and his response was, your letter wasn't specific enough that it didn't say program income
Well, let's
specific.
rewrite another letter.
We will
The
rewrite
board,
another
the board
letter.
meets
Right enough
Thursday.
to read between the lines.
Yeah, the board meets Thursday, but I would think that would require a vote by the board of supervisors.
I would ask that you write the letter and you present it and state our case.
On Thursday?
Yes.
I'll-
I'll write the letter and you can sign it or review it and sign it, but we'll take the same letter and we'll put in bold.
And the president,
program
just to make
income.
sure I'm correct, I want to make, local government's always worried about president, but I do recall a situation on Northwest Avenue around 2008 where the home that used to be formerly occupied by Miss Mattie Neal was basically redone using an indoor plumbing grant, no local tax dollars. I believe that house is now for sale. How does that work? Do you get a lien or if you fix a house
There's a
like that?
deed of trust for a period of time.
Okay.
And we checked on it not too long ago. I'd been asking, she only had like a month. She's deceased, but
Right.
the deed of trust only had about a month left
It's past now.
before
If
the,
they sell
the
it, they-
expiration.
It's no funds.
Okay.
There's no cost
Okay.
to the,
If you would work that letter up, I go to the board meetings, I'll be glad to do it. And I may be wrong, I may have missed a meeting, but that's something that requires a vote in open session, just for you transparency buffs out there. All. Next, you have the rental property maintenance report.
we're just waiting on some information from the county. We're waiting on them to tell us
Will they help
what they're
us?
gonna charge. Yeah, what the
they're gonna
cost of
charge.
it's gonna be.
Have you estimated, is there any estimate of how many rental units are in the town of Blackstone? And
It's all an assumption, but I would say we're, pardon? There you go.
rental homes? Now, because
Rental
it's
units,
just
you mean?
homes that are in the ordinance, not apartments. Are apartments in there?
Because if you add apartments.
Oh,
on
it's
it,
over
that's-
1,100, 1,200 probably.
And we have approximately 2,000 utility customers,
Okay.
so.
Very good. Nothing to report on item number 8. We have new business. Rice in the town of Blackstone deed, Mr. Van Orbeck.
If you want your head to spin, read this deed.
Well, first of all, line 2, you got a horrible typo here. The Blacksburg, Virginia didn't have a thing to do with
It
it.
is in Blacksburg, Virginia. This is the draft deed. It's prepared by Rice Corporation's attorney. To break it down into layman's terms, Tessie can get into the weeds, but this is they're requesting a deed of exchange. They want us to basically abandon a section of road or right-of-way that splits their property. In exchange, they want to grant us a cul-de-sac so they can build a cul-de-sac at the end of Polymer Place.
Father reply, yeah.
Okay, Tessie can answer the details if you have any. And I think all we would be looking for tonight would be a public hearing authorization.
Why do they want this all of a sudden? Is there plans?
You know,
back there?
Carl just called me kind of out of the blue and said, hey, man, can you meet? And ran it by me and I said, I can't imagine this is gonna be a controversial issue.
No.
But what is their future planning? I don't know, he didn't indicate that they have any future plans other than trying to straighten out some legal stuff at the corporation.
Well, Tessie, this was some tough reading. But I didn't see where my boss was gonna be adversely affected.
No, that is true. It won't be. I am going to, I've been in contact with the other attorney on this, and I'm gonna ask him, are all those recitals necessary? Or really, when you get down to it, I think, unless there's some legal reason that I'm not aware of on their end, all we really need to do is exchange the property and the deed, and then we need to add in our public hearing information once we do that. But, I am gonna talk to him, and there are a few things that I need to tighten up on, and so when it comes to the public hearing, I plan to have a final deed to present to the town. That's not, as far as I'm concerned, going to be the final deed. I've got some changes I want to make. I just wanted to make sure you all were fine with the bare bones of it, actually exchanging the property before I, spend my time and
Absolutely.
the town's money on
Right.
fine tuning it.
Now, speaking of that, present company excluded, lawyers get quite a nice hourly fee, and this document took some hours. That's what it looked like to me. That was after the third page and wiping and gnashing of teeth. Somebody was getting paid by the line on this deal. Because this should have been done in a page and a half, in my
So get
opinion.
down to, there's an old road in there. Didn't we abandon that road?
Pardon?
Did we abandon that road?
I think the agreement was that the town would abandon it, but I don't think it ever
So
was.
isn't that all that it would take, is just to abandon the road?
Well, I think
Have a
the end
public
result
hearing.
is we want
Well, correct, yeah, but I
the
mean,
necessary right of way for, and Rice has agreed to,
for a turnaround.
they agreed to pay for the construction of it.
That's all right.
At no prodding from the town. So
Gotcha.
it's a deed of exchange, and I think it's some language
Okay.
about who's responsible for what construction and all that sort of thing. But I think the town, if you read this thoroughly, I think that there was a understanding at the time they purchased the property that a portion would be abandoned.
I move that we move forward with a public hearing and that council entertain this as a doable situation.
Second, Mr. Scott has seconded the motion. You do have, before we vote, you do have the, Mr. Van Robeck, you asked that I refer this to a committee of my choosing. Okay, I'll do that. I'll refer that to Street and Light.
Whichever one you want to, yeah.
For
But
the-
if you want to get in the weeds, I think it's appropriate to have everybody go through it and see if there's any.
Do we want to get in the weeds? Do we feel like?
I mean, I would trust Tessie, and why, I mean, does it need to go to committee?
Man, I run all the weed eater, I almost run.
I'm gonna go, let's have a vote on Mr. Green's motion. All in favor, say aye.
No.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I think we'll move forward and not get into committee,
So not going.
not going to committee. Item number 2, Keep Virginia Beautiful. We have a report in your packet from Ms. Wilson.
I think a notification of a public meeting on the 19th, and we heard you guys loud and clear, and I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of litter in Blacksburg. We see it, you guys have mentioned it. One of the things that Yvonne wants to get going on is litter pickups and litter prevention and anything that could possibly be possible. So she's gonna have a public meeting on the 19th at the LCCDC to assist with public input for perhaps grant applications and that sort of thing.
Excellent.
Okay?
Do we need a motion?
Not at this time.
Okay, very good.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, Sally
We
Beal.
ought to take the opportunity this Saturday when Rotary has picked up on Friday in Blackstone, meet at City Park at 8 o'clock. And we'll send you to some of these streets and meet. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Sally. That's a great, how many years is that project now? About 6 or 7 years? No, it's more. Actually, it was 2006 for the first year. It was the first year. Outstanding. Cemetery appeal.
Yeah.
What's
There's
going on
good
here?
news and bad news.
All right.
The bad news is you got an appeal for the placement of a headstone. The good news is things are going good in the cemetery, except for this particular matter. Sadly, we had somebody call some time ago. Mr. Kyle was instructed not to make decisions on his own for cemetery matters. We need to do them together and jointly so that we all learn how to handle the cemetery. The cemetery policy says only an upright family stone on an 8-grave parcel. I don't know what happened, but we met with Simmons Monument, and Justin pointed out the wrong grave to him in the 1 grave section. Indeed, after we reviewed it, because it didn't look correct, we reviewed it, and the individual is buried. It's a Mr. Herman Moore. He is buried in an 8-grave section, and Simmons has the monument constructed. And it's sitting on the back of the truck, waiting to be installed based on Mr. Kyle's instructions to Simmons Monument. I can't allow that to go on without an appeal approval. Then I think the town has some obligation to compensate the family for the upright stone.
Go ahead if you want to.
I move to approve of the appeal, and they place the stone wherever it needs to be. I mean, it's our fault. What
It
do
is
we
our
do?
fault, and we don't
You
shirk
want to
from it.
deny the appeal. You want to approve the
He
appeal?
wants to grant the appeal.
To grant the
Grant.
appeal, yeah, because they came to us asking for.
Okay, well, I want to deny the appeal, but we pay for the stone so they can put the right stone. Is that what you're trying to say? I don't want to deviate from town policy, but I think the town is culpable and should pay for the stone. That's what I'm saying.
Agree with that.
Man,
Hold on, Mr. McCure.
here we go again. Same song, third
we
verse.
did it.
Doesn't make no difference.
This is much different. This is much different.
Well, it is. If we have to bite the bullet and pay for the stone, that's one thing. I think that as hard work and as many times as that cemetery ordinance came
Y'all
in front
did.
of
Yep.
this group, it was chewed on and hammered on.
And public
changed.
hearing, it was a public hearing.
And I mean, that was handled and handled and handled. And for us, when the breath is not even changing breath, we want to deviate again. I say, no. If we made a mistake, we pay for the mistake. We remedied the mistake. but we leave the policy the way it's supposed to be.
What does it cost? How much does the family pay?
I think it's pretty fancy stone. It's got the gentleman's faces on it, and
Oh,
I think you're in the thousands of dollars.
Gosh,
You probably got what,
folks,
$3,500, he said?
folks,
I'd say this is a
Instead of just
$3,000
allowing it
stone.
to go there.
folks, let me tell you
I
something.
made a motion.
Mr. Nash, I applaud Mr. Nash. Listen, you gotta remember, folks, this is Blackstone, Virginia, and you got a family that's grieving. They've got the man's face on the stone. Y'all have fun with us, but I think, Mr. Nash, I support granting this appeal. My dad told me 3 things. You don't mess with someone when they're born, when they get married, or when they die. That's what families are the most
If we didn't have
volatile.
fault in it, I'd be fine. I mean, we'd have a discussion. But we had one of our own employees
Admittedly, to say, yeah, I told him all.
that can go there, and then it really can't. So why pay $4,000 possibly, and when you can just say, okay, yeah, you can have your stone there? To me,
Y'all-
it's not a good use of money.
Let me see if Mr. Nash's motion gets a second. Your motion is to grant the appeal, allowing the stone that's already been made and purchased to be installed in the cemetery in their grave lot.
Correct.
Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion?
Offer a substitute motion
Okay.
to deny the appeal and pay for the stone.
Okay. All right, the substitute motion does take priority, so we're going to vote on Mr. Green's motion first.
So let me make that clear. We're gonna pay for a stone that's up to $4,000, if not more.
I don't know the exact price. Mr. Hamner could probably tell you better, but it does have the man's picture on it and all that
Could
kind of
just
stuff.
say,
The man's buried there in the lot, right?
He's buried.
Are there any other family members buried in that grave
There
lot?
are, I can't swear to family members, but in that A grave section, he's in one and someone else is in another.
Because not to sound sarcastic, but congratulations, you have a nice stone that you can't put where your loved one's buried. Correct. All right, but anyway, go ahead, Mr. Hammond.
Talking about putting this in an 8 grave lot, putting this stone in there,
It is.
and there's one person dead and buried in this lot, right?
Two.
All right, and apparently they are not buried in the center on either the east or west.
They are buried, if you're looking from the east looking west, on either opposite corner. You got the 8 graves, one is on the southwest corner and one is in the northeast corner. Directly opposite from one another. And,
that's where they wanted them to be buried, correct?
no, yeah, the burials took place some time ago, for Mr. Moore, and this is a Herman Moore, and I think his son is a John Moore. He's been very patient and very cordial, throughout. Justin and I have met at length about the matter, and, I'm just glad it didn't get set in the wrong location. That's
There's
better,
just one picture on the stone.
too, I believe.
I mean, people make, I don't want to, people do make mistakes. I mean, and these, not the only mistakes that we made today. I've made several today myself. Mr. Green's motion takes priority, and Mr. Green's motion is to reimburse the family for the stone. And Mr. McCure is second that motion. We'll have a roll. Okay, discussion,
I'd
continue.
like to, I think we have a well-renowned expert here, and I want to hear what Mr. Hammer has to say about it.
I'm gonna tell you what I have to say when I vote.
Well, I want to know before.
This is the very last, so you know, if you're driving down Memorial Drive and you take a right hand, you remember where Clarence Simpson's
Yes.
buried? And you make that right turn like you're going to go across the creek, it is the farthest right hand 8 grade section toward the creek.
So it wouldn't affect your mowing, which is,
Now there's so many trees over there, the grass is a little sparse to start with, but I can't, I think if you do it, I think you can make a motion, and I think the Moores would agree if you put a contingency that this would be the only family stone placed there, that they would not be entitled to a second upright stone.
Well, that's the policy's none.
Policy's one.
I don't know why, if they got an exception, I think they would understand they got lucky on this one because,
They're entitled to one in the center of the 8 grave. They'd like to place it directly over Dad, who is buried in the
right.
southwestern corner of the 8 graves, and just place it on him. And if you could see to do it, I know making a point is important. This one's ours, we own it, and
Blackstone, Virginia, and
$4,000 to make a point, I don't know, that's taxpayers' money.
Well, I want to hear what Mr. Hammer says.
This is what I fought before, and here we go, we're back to square one. I'll fight it right now. I would not support it. If the town has to pay for it, maybe we can get with some of the monument company and they show us some consideration. But the policy is the policy is the policy.
Understand?
All right, well, we've got a motion, the substitute motion takes priority. The motion is to deny, but to reimburse. Roll call vote, starting with Mr. Hamner. You
Vote
vote-
to deny.
That means you're voting yes.
You say aye.
Ah,
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Motion carries 5-2.
I just, at $4,000 of our tax-paying dollars right now, that's just absurd. I'm sorry. To go to.
Well, all right, so what's the alternative, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Green has asked, Mr. Van Novak, what is it, well, there's no other alternative now, because unless you want to rescind what you've
Well,
done.
that's easy. We're all here. We can do that. I want to do what's right. I'm listening to you, Mayor. I'm listening to you. You always have my ear.
I know that.
I'll give you some particulars about the matter. The Moore family lives in New York, okay? Port Jervis, New York. I don't even know where that is. How Mr. Moore ended up being buried here, he must have some Blackstone connection of some sort. Do I think it's likely that anybody else will be buried there? Mr. Moore has told me it's unlikely, but it's not impossible.
Do me a favor. Speak to Mr. Hamner. If you get him to move, I'm going to move because he's the expert.
understand.
And I don't know anything about it. And I know he does. So
The alternative
work
to
something out with him right here, right now, because I hear what the mayor's saying and I agree. I also hear what Mr. Nash said. It's a pile of money. Okay? So can
the
you,
only alternative would be to have the motion to approve the appeal contingent on no additional upright stones. And so, albeit you still only have one, it is out of line, out of kilter.
But where you've stated where it's at.
It almost looks like it's in the old part of the cemetery.
Oh, it's where the, yeah.
It's in the very back
In my
end of the
mind, that's
cemetery.
old cemetery. Just in my mind, and I think folks also got to realize this. We want to make it easy for our town employees, but you've got one side of the cemetery has one set of rules and another set for other rules, and y'all did a great job last week. Put a ton of time into it, so I don't want to, not appreciative of your efforts, but
well, let me ask you this. I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah,
But let me ask you this. I'm here. Number one, it's not in a conspicuous location. Is that correct?
It's in the very back of the cemetery.
Okay, well then that's answered. Okay, number two, there's no fault to the grieving family whatsoever. It's a fault to our,
100% town fault.
okay? And number three, it's an absorbent amount of money.
We're making assumptions on the 4,000, but it's pretty fancy. It's a red stone, it's red granite, and it's got the fellow's pictures on
Well,
it.
with those things being said, Mr. Hamner, if we would put a caveat on it, or whatever you wanna call it, there'd be no more stones put on there, and it's in a conspicuous location and a tremendous amount of money and no fault to the family. Could we live with it? And then going forward, then all these requests where stones are gonna be laid will have to go through the town manager?
let me ask this question before I answer that.
Yes, sir.
What does the rules of the cemetery say in this section?
This is a new section. This is a new section piece, so it's,
From Pine Street west is new, and on the left-hand side is the new section.
this is a new section. This is
This is as you're going down the hill, getting ready.
the very last graze on the right-hand
it's a
side.
deviation from the policy. No doubt, it's clear.
Mr. Hamner, I'm asking you I'm asking you to swallow this. I'm prepared to do it because the cemetery is old and new and this and that, and this is a new policy. It was an error on the town. It's no fault to the grieving family. It's not in a conspicuous place, and it goes against my green, but all those things are more important than my principles.
I'll swallow it, but what you gonna do when this happens again?
We
This
can't-
is twice.
We ain't gonna have them again because.
What was the first time?
Huh?
Well, you said this was twice. What was the first time?
The first time was over there with,
Oh, I see.
This was an employee mistake, I think.
If it happens again, then it'll be on me this time, 100%.
Move to rescind.
Justin works for me, and I've got to deal with it at that point, but,
You have moved to
you know.
rescind the denial of the appeal.
Yes,
Is
I
there a
have.
second? Ms. Thompson is seconded. Roll call vote starting with Mr. Hamner on, Mr. McCure?
Reluctantly, aye.
So 7-0, the family.
Move to approve the appeal.
Mr. Green has moved to approve the appeal. Mr. Nash is
With
seconded.
excuse me, Mr. Nash, with the restrictions of no more headstones in this lot.
No more upright.
In the same grade plot,
Right.
right, lot. Mr. Nash is seconding Mr. Green's motion to approve the appeal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it 7-0. Thank you, members of council.
May I make one
Thank you,
comment?
Ben.
Mr. McCure?
I think it's very sad that this particular item had to come up. It's something that tugs at all of our heartstrings, but it goes past that, back to something much more fundamental. We've talked about 3 or 4 ordinances tonight and have systematically made exceptions for every one of them. And we do it, and we have done it religiously time after time after time, and we wonder why nobody's happy with our ordinance.
I deeply respect you,
It's
Mr. Moncur.
because
I'm
you
tired of
cannot
being on the
enforce
carpet.
what you got.
Move on, man.
Mr. Miller, real quick.
You know, and I like to agree with what he's saying. You know, the reason why we don't enforce these ordinances is because we try to look out for our buddies. This is why the ordinance is not effective. Because when it comes to an ordinance, like he's saying, and you got to this, what he's saying is, when it comes to one of our buddies, we like to overlook the ordinances and look out for our buddies. And this can't be happening.
It's a fair point. I think this situation is unique in the fact that the town employee made a mistake.
No. We're talking about what he's saying.
Oh, he's absolutely, I can't
Like
dispute,
he said,
can't dispute it.
Tonight we have overlooked 3 or 4 ordinances.
Well, what have we, Kim, the Moody parking request, the other request by Tim Bauer was denied. Tim Bauer's,
But what he's saying, when it comes down to, when it actually comes down to what's happening is, we try to overlook our ordinances to look out for somebody else's well-being. And it can't go on like this.
Well, that's what I was railing for. That was my whole issue. It wasn't personal. But the only thing about this incident that changed my mind was the 3 incidents that I mentioned. The expense to you as a taxpayer, that's inconspicuous area, no fault of the grieving family, and a blatant fault of the town of Blackstone. That's the only reason why. That's the reason why I changed my mind. I agree with you, sir. If we don't like the laws, we need to repeal them. I agree. But the mayor has pulled it. The mayor has made, and Mr. Nash has made an appeal to us, and I think we all heard it and we agree with it.
I want to assure you, Mr. Miller, I do not know the deceased or the relatives, or I knew nothing about this
I wouldn't know
appeal.
them if they ran up here in the building.
But what
You
I'm
know.
saying, we make a law, we need to stick to it.
Generally speaking, you're correct, and generally speaking.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Generally speaking, this council does get asked to make exceptions, but the process is working. There's an appeals process. It was heard tonight. This appeal was granted. The Moody's got a break from the parking pass, but Mr. Bauer did not win. The man who, so but your point is well made.
I will tell you one thing, and it's maybe not my soapbox, but there's many a thing that I'm not going to miss on July 1st, but I am going to miss sitting here amongst these ladies and gentlemen that we can discuss items civilly and come and work together and come to a solution.
Firmly, passionately, and high five later. Moving along to the updated BAB substance abuse policy. Is this just something we do every year? Is this this is a new initiative by Josh?
Well, it's actually come about by an FTA update on a provision from going from opioids to opioids. FTA is on us regardless, but a lot of the stuff that's in there in bold print is basically a mirroring of what the Blackstone policy already is. But the biggest thing in there is from opioids to opioids.
Very good. That's a very good. Lots of needed change.
Okay, this is just information?
It's actually, I need approval for it. DRPT has already approved it, and once you guys approve it, then it's actually our policy.
Move to approve.
Mr. Nash has moved. Mr. Tucker has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Under committee referrals, I'm sorry, Mr. Bagley.
I have one other thing. Going down South Main Street,
Okay.
the lines, they have a couple left turn to right turn that going into people's property. Like, I think going south is the photographer's house on the right there. It's a turn.
That's for Bagley Street.
Beyond Bagley.
Okay,
Street.
okay.
Beyond Bagley Street.
Okay.
Like in the middle of the block, there's a arrow that turn left and another arrow that says turn right.
Are they just placed
every so often
at a
feet.
certain interval? I don't know, it may
I think
be.
they just
It-
indicate that it's a center turning lane.
That's what it is. I remember when we did it, the whole lane is
Jack Hodge.
turn lane, and it just staggers back and forth. Just to indicate that the whole lane is for turning.
Turning lane.
But let me tell you something, I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was crazy when it was done in 2007, that wide center lane, as one who jogs in that street, I figured someone's gonna run off the road. Those narrow travel lanes make you a better driver, I think.
Yeah, I fought it too. I don't like running over the manholes, but I do see the benefit.
Yes.
It has
yes.
slowed traffic down. I think it's much better.
It's,
But I do recall Mr. Hodge. He was easy to recall. You know, but that's what it did. It just staggers left and right. I see your point though.
Under committee referrals, there were no requests for committee
I
referrals.
do have two, if I may, very quickly, both water and sewer.
Okay,
One of them is, I think that we and the new post commander would like to revisit the sewer capacity issue. And
okay.
I'd like to sit down with the water and sewer committee or the.
Fire and water committee?
Fine. And the other issue is some sewer lines on East Street that we're working in, and I'd really like to brief everybody that Lee and Scott and I have met with some property owners, and we'd like you guys to kind of know what's going on before we get too far.
Both are referred to fire and water committee.
Yeah, thank you.
It's you, isn't it?
Under the mayor's amendment, I took care of Betty Wood. We're going to get some signatures from Betty Wood and get more clarity on that project at Second and Brunswick. The police report's in your packet. It's good to have Chief Kuzmiak here tonight. We've got a little bit more of a meeting left. At this time, any citizens who wish to comment or ask any questions, this is their second and final time before we have a closed session, I believe. Anyone? Yes, Ms. Harriet Greenhill.
I was confused about your credit card update that you did.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I had a concern previous months about being charged or using your credit card over in the town office here. So I didn't really understand the conclusion.
I can help you. The policy that was approved tonight for public hearing is the town office has had a situation where people pay the utility bill with their credit card, and then sometime thereafter they call the credit card and say, I didn't approve that charge at the town of Blackstone. And so the town gets stuck, quote unquote, by that purchase. Your situation you're referring to that you have concerns about is that when people do pay with a credit card, there's a fee.
2.88%. 85%, excuse me.
2.85% that the town gets charged by the credit card company. Is there any, could we maybe look for another vendor, or?
You're not gonna get much cheaper.
I mean, that maybe someone that there has no fee, or there's always gonna be a fee though,
You're
obviously.
gonna be.
There's
I
gonna be
think
a
there's gonna be a fee, but there may be some other benefits that we don't know about.
If we could shop that around, look maybe when, I know y'all are busy, especially right now with the payment plans, but maybe in May or June, we'll try to look for maybe a cheaper rate. But I think the town's rationale has been that charge is passed on to the town. That's what I've heard from the council
It's
so
not a
far.
late fee or anything as that sort. And what we were talking
Yeah, I
about, he's,
understand that. I was just concerned about the charge period, just to help me to understand.
Does it make a difference if it's a debit card versus a credit card? It's still a charge.
And for a $400 light bill, a town utility bill, 3%, that's another $12. So it's a fair point. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I want to refer the credit card issue to the Health and Ordinance Committee to see if to get some better guidance, because there are a number of people that is concerning. It may not be anything the Health and Ordinance can do, but I would like Health and Ordinance to look at it. But that way, you can give staff some guidance. Moving along, any other citizens with any questions? Do we have a closed session tonight? For
Would you add to it too, please?
All right, the closed session is for Personnel Street Department.
Right, and also like to add prospective economic venture.
Yes, okay. At this time, I need a motion to go into closed session for those two reasons, for the personnel issue, Street Department,
Glad to offer the motion. If I gotta read all that stuff. Okay.
and
Thank you.
prospective business industry that's not been named.
Right.
Mr. Monk, did you second, Ms. Markey?
Mr. Monk, your second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We will go in closed session. I know that, are there parties that have standing in the closed session that, I think there are people here regarding the closed session. So I think that if,
Do I need to cut the video off or?
yeah, we are now going into closed session, and those who,
Do you need to make this announcement before we go into closed session? Of who's allowed or?
I'm trying to be as discreet and transparent at the same time.
Come in the
If you can
back.
advise a little.
What's that?
Have them leave and then come in the back.
You can cut the video off or leave it on?
Go out
Leave it on and, well, It could go either way.
We'll take a 5-minute recess. That way,
Okay, I'm gonna stop the video.
5-minute recess.
Yeah.